All right, guys, what's up? And welcome back to another episode of the Alpha Girl Confidence Podcast. Excited to share today's episode with you, where we are going to be talking about how to navigate burnout in your sport. So burnout is something that I've experienced, not just in my sport, but just in my life in general. And if you're an athlete, especially an athlete that plays at a high level, you're probably going to experience burnout at some time in your career. The goal is that if we do experience it, we're going to be able to learn how to navigate it in a graceful way in order to help you to move through it quickly, which is the point of this episode. So whether you've been through it before, you're currently going through it, or it's something that you just want to arm yourself against, this is going to be a great episode for you. And hopefully after the Thanksgiving week, hopefully you're feeling revitalized, rejuvenated. I know a lot of you may have had the week off, but there's also probably another handful of you that just got back from tournaments. I know when I was growing up playing in Surf Cup almost every single Thanksgiving, it wasn't much of a reset with all the travel and the really high intense tournaments. So this might be a really good time for a lot of you with kind of fall season winding down. You've put in a lot of work, a lot of practices, games, trainings over the fall season as we're kind of transitioning into this winter season coming up. So the first thing that I want you to understand about burnout, and this is going to be different for everyone, is you have to start to learn and understand what burnout feels like for you. Because what burnout feels like for me may be different than what it feels like for you. So what are those signs? For me, when I was 15, I felt so much pressure to start to get, in the recruiting process. Like my teammates were all getting recruited. It was so much pressure. I stopped having fun. So a big kind of red flag for me was that I stopped really enjoying it. I stopped wanting to get better. I kind of lost that desire, that hunger to get better and to grow. And a big part of that was that I wasn't confident. And that's a huge part of why I lost the love of it as well. But I just kind of stopped really caring about it as much as I had in my previous time playing the sport. And so those were some of the signs for me. I know that I've had parents come to me and say that, hey, my daughter doesn't want to go train on her own as much, or she isn't excited to go to practice, or she's making up excuses, instead of being excited and wanting to go train on her own, like she's making up these excuses. Like that's also a sign of burnout. So really just kind of pay attention to how you feel. Again, you may experience it differently. You will experience it differently than I do and that your teammates do. So that's why it's so important to really be in touch with how you're feeling, be in touch with your emotions so that you can take the necessary steps to navigate the burnout. Because if you aren't sure what you're going through, just like I wasn't sure what it was when I was going through it, if you aren't sure what it is that you're going through, it's going to be hard to take the necessary steps to work through it, right? It's kind of like you got a blindfold on and you're trying to like navigate your way around the city. Like, no, you gotta understand what you're going through so that you can take the necessary steps. So that's kind of like your, I guess, like homework after this is to navigate. If this is something you're currently going through, like write down, journal, reflect on how are you currently feeling, kind of what are those signs for you. Okay, that's first thing. Now let's get into how to actually navigate burnout. The first initial first step is to learn from it, to not fight it, because burnout is there for a reason. Your body is trying to tell you something. It's not just there because it just decided to pop up. No, there's something that may be amiss that is causing you to feel that way. Are you doing too many trainings? Are you physically burnt out because you got 4 trainings a week, you got a private training session, you're playing 1 to 2 games a week? Like if that's the case, then okay, maybe we need to dial it back, right? So getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but realize that your body and your mind is telling you to slow down or to change something. So realize, don't fight it, don't try to push it away, don't try to ignore it, don't avoid it, but be there to learn something from it. Okay, and then from there, I want you to reflect. I want you to ask yourself the question, why do I feel this way? Okay, why do you feel this way? Again, is it because you're doing 7 million trainings a week? Is it because you're in a bad relationship with your teammates and or your coaches, and it's causing you to not be as excited, right? Is there a lot of tension and pressure with your parents? Like, I really want you to reflect and go deep. The deeper you can go, the easier you're going to be able to navigate out of this, right? But reflect and really ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, like it's all of those things. It's not just a physical thing. It's not just a mental thing. Usually it's all of those things, or at least a combination of those things. Okay. And then after you've kind of reflected on that and figured out, okay, here's maybe the cause of my burnout, I want you to identify and go do something that you enjoy that's completely removed from your sport, has nothing to do with your sport, right? Because when we're in burnout, it's because we're doing that thing too much. And a lot of the times our identities are wrapped up in our sport. I know mine was wrapped up in my sport for years, right? So number one, if you're like, oh my gosh, what do I enjoy outside of my sport? This is like really important for you to sit down and really think like, what do I love? What do I enjoy? What brings me happiness and joy? And like, just, I love doing it just because I love doing it, not to get anything out of it, but just because I love doing it, right? So I want you to identify a couple things, and then I want you to actually go do it. Make time for it. If you're too busy and you don't do the thing you enjoy, the burnout is going to keep going and going and going until eventually you might just quit your sport because you're like, forget it, I can't get out of this burnout. I'm done. And that almost happened to me, right? And I didn't do anything about it. I didn't know how, right? So find what you enjoy and make time for it. Think about the big picture. Like probably the best thing that you can do when you're burnt out is to take a step back from your sport. And now is such a great time to maybe take a little step back. Can you maybe not do so many extra trainings? Can you maybe talk to your coach and see if there's something you can work out and, to help you navigate and make more time for other things, right? Because I know short term you may think like, no, I can't take a break because then I'm going to get left behind. No, you're not going to get left behind. You're going to get left behind if you continue down this pathway of burnout. You need to look at the big picture and what is going to be the best thing for me physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, like big picture. What is going to be the best thing for me? And my guess is that taking a small step back, maybe a big step, but at least a small step back from your sport and doing something you enjoy, hanging out with your friends, going hiking, drawing, playing an instrument, like whatever it is that you enjoy, make time for it because it's really, really important. All right. The third thing, okay, and I just kind of alluded to this, is to spend time, number one, with yourself. The more time you spend with yourself, the more you're going to learn what you need, right? If you're always on social media all the time and just always consuming something, you don't get to know yourself. You get to know other people, and you never get to know, what do I really want? What do I really love? Who am I really, right? So spend time with yourself. Like, put your phone down, go take a walk, go hug a tree, go do something to just be with yourself, all right? And then also spend time with people that fill up your cup. Spend time with people that make you laugh, that make you happy, that give you joy, whether that be family, whether that be friends. And another kind of piece to this, a lot of times if you're feeling burnt out in your sport, sometimes it can be really helpful to spend time with people that aren't your teammates. Now, for me, it's like my teammates were my best friends, and that may be the case for you, and that's great. Continue to hang out with them. But if you're feeling like just so sick of the environment even, like hang out with people that aren't on your team. Hang out with other friends that aren't part of like your group, right? And that's really important. But just make sure that those people, fill up your cup, make you happy, make you smile, make you laugh, right? That's really important. To kind of get you out of your own head as well as you're navigating burnout. All right. And then the last thing, okay, and this is kind of tied to the first thing, but the last thing is to understand, again, that burnout is normal and it's not going to last forever. That's one of the most important perspectives when you're going through these difficult times or even a difficult emotion, is to realize that thing, that emotion, that feeling isn't going to last forever. right? Just like the changing of seasons. So here in Sacramento, the leaves are still falling. Some trees are bare naked. Some are still dropping their leaves, but it's a time of transition, right? The tree's not freaking out like, oh no, things are changing, I'm losing my leaves. Like, no, it knows that it's going to get those leaves back. It knows that there's change, there's transition, there's seasons to life for the tree, just like there's seasons to life for you. And I've noticed myself that I go through these seasons. So also honor those seasons. And maybe there's a season for you where it's that time for you to like winter is such a great time for you to kind of relax, take a step back, really spend time with family, spend time with friends, and kind of, rethink what you desire and what you enjoy and what makes you happy. And if that's your sport, great, continue to train, continue to go hard. But if you need to take a step back, that's more than okay too. So don't ever feel guilty for feeling these feelings of burnout. Don't ever feel guilty for taking a step back and taking a rest. There's nothing wrong with taking a rest. That sometimes is the best thing that you can do, not just for your mental health, but also for your physical health and for you to go back to your sport. Because the cool thing is once you get out of burnout and you've navigated it like the way we're talking about, usually when you step back into your sport, you're like so invigorated and you're so excited because you gave yourself that space to take a step back, right? But if you never give yourself that space, if you just continue to pound, the love of your sport is going to continually degrade. You're not going to have this like rebirth, so to say. So sometimes you got to take that step back to catapult yourself forward. And that step back can really be the catalyst for a lot of growth for you as a human being and for an athlete. So again, I hope you enjoy this episode. Little homework and action steps for you is when you feel this way, ask yourself, number one, why am I feeling this way? Like really get to the root. And when you ask yourself that, listen to it. Take action on it. Don't just write it down and say, oh, well, I'm going to just keep training. Like, no, really listen to it and take action on it and start doing the things you enjoy and start developing identity outside of your sport. Who are you without your sport? If you quit tomorrow, if you get an injury, who are you outside of your sport? And experiencing burnout and going through that process is a great time to kind of discover that if you are having a really tied identity to your sport. And then lastly is spend time with people that you enjoy. Spend time with people that make you smile and make you laugh. All right. So if this episode is helpful for you, share it with a teammate, share it with a friend. Also, I appreciate a million times anytime I see a review of the podcast and how it's helping you, how it's helping your daughter. I so appreciate it. So if you haven't yet left a review, I would be so grateful if you would just take a few minutes on iTunes and leave an honest review. If that's a hard word to say right now, leave an honest review for me. I would be really appreciative of that. All right. Hope you have a great week, and I will see you on next week's episode. Take care.